Sure, you think that you can bully and intimidate people as you always have, but things are different today. This isn't 1991 and it isn't 2001. What a difference 20 years makes. The West is in shambles. Europe is imploding. America is bankrupt. You want to shift from sending all your money to the corrupt and steady losing army of Ukraine to now sending all of your money to the corrupt and steady failing army of Israel, as if your own people don't need that money. I mean, look, America just sent warships over to Israel. Nothing could better show what a failure Israel is, what a failure U.S. policy has been with regards to Israel. I mean, even Ariel Sharon back in the day rightly stated that Israel was supposed to be America's warship in the Middle East, but now you have to send backup. I mean, you've been taken for a ride for decades now. The American people pouring hundreds of billions of dollars to prop up a colonial project for all these years, and it still doesn't work. Netanyahu and his...
Normally, whenever they come to a region of this planet, they bring chaos, which they believe they can manage. They bring victims among civilians. I don't even want to mention Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, none of these places where they declared they want to bring democracy. None of these places is better off than when they interfered under the false pretext, quite often, like it was in Iraq. So the Americans invent the rules which they insist everybody must follow, as long as these rules serve the American interests. As soon as others become a bit more efficient than the USA itself, the rules are being changed.
This time Eritrea is being contained by them. We are being punished with their sanctions. Every time we have to be punished because we are not bowing. We are not bowing to their conditionalities. We are a very small threat. We are not even a threat to them. But they have to contain us. Sanctions, 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 conflict here, conflict there. Now, I think we need to strategize. And I say Russia will have to lead this strategy. Russia will have to design a plan on facing this declared war. Not only on Russia, but it's a global war. And everybody should come and join Russia on this strategy. The sooner the better. The easier way we can control this hegemonistic strategy and frustrate that strategy, we give peace. Development will come. Nobody...
All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who will believe in this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. This is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Now, we're in a very beautiful time through the Spirit. You know, as the lines are being drawn in the sand, you know, these clips highlight the growing sentiment in the world through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, all right, against the West, all right, and concerning the West, all right, America, Britain, Russia, Australia, France, all of these places where the self-proclaimed so-called white man is, their biblical nationality is Edom. They're Edomites. So when you see this taunting proverb against the West, all right, really it highlights the sentiment against Esau, Edom. All right. When you deal with Isaiah, the 14th chapter, if we start up, right? Let's start here at verse 4. Isaiah 14:4, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. All right. So this is referring to Babylon. All right. The king of Babylon. All right. In these days, in this day and age, all right, the scriptures identifies this place as the daughter of Babylon. So this proverb is being taken up. All right. And when we jump down to 9, it says the chief ones of the earth, all right, have raised up. And now they're saying, art thou become weak as we? And these 3 clips are examples of that. All right. These 3 clips are examples of nations rising up with opinions. All right. And rising up in defiance, you know, because we're now in a time through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah where the nations are beginning to stick up their head and speak up. You know, and ultimately that goes back to them having a guard. All right. And you can see the last clip with the representative from Eritrea basically saying that Russia was going to have to lead the charge in this changing world order. All right. And that goes back to prophecy. All right. So let's go here. All right. We're going to go to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter and the 1st verse. And it reads, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. All right, and it's referring to Russia. All right, as a nation of people, they occupy the land that belongs to Japheth, but they are Edomites. All right, the Russians, the Brits, the French, the Germans, the Australians, any New Zealand, anywhere the so-called white man is, they are a nation of people altogether. All right. And they're identified as Esau, Edom. That's their biblical nationality. So even though they're divided and they divide themselves by where they're born, according to the scriptures, all right, their lineage goes back as a nation to Edom. So this is referring to the Russians who occupy the land of Gog and Magog. All right, verse 4 reads, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So what the representative from Eritrea said was really spiritual. It goes back to the scriptures. It goes back to prophecy. And what the world is going to find out is that no one operates outside of the will of the Heavenly Father. All right, whether great or small. All right, this is Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So even the statement this guy was making, it really goes back to the Lord's will being accomplished. You know, the Lord gives us the general, and then we live through the details. All right. And you've seen in these clips instances of people seeing the elephant in the room and calling it out, because it's not as though these nations were not aware of the situation they were in. It's just they didn't have an alternative and they didn't have any protection to speak up. And this is why the Lord raised up the Russians to be a guard unto these other nations. And this is why they become more and more bold every day. All right. And when you really think about what's going on in the state of Israel, it's really dividing that line even more, because what's going on there through the spirit is just another piece of the puzzle that moves us gradually and gradually to the third world woe. All right. And this was prophesied. All right. There's Revelation chapter 11. And I'm going to jump down to verse 14 and hit the point. It says the second war is past, which was World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. All right. And what you notice if you do any extensive or deep dive into World War I or World War II, there were always these discussions and these economic situations that were leading up to the conflict We're living through that part now. Even though you have these skirmishes, you have the theater of war, all right, in Ukraine. All right, you have the theater of war, all right, now in the state of Israel. All right, there's still wars and skirmishes, if you will. There's still skirmishes in the land of Syria. All right, just recently this week or last week, the U.S. attacked a base in Syria that was an Iranian base, allegedly. So this shows you that all throughout the earth right now, you have conflicts, and all of these conflicts go back to a source. All right, when you look at it, it's all divided between the Russians and the Americans, keeping in mind that both of these nations are Edomites. Even though they identify themselves by their location, they're still the same nation of people. All right, this is Matthew chapter 12, and I'm going to jump down to verse 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And this is exactly what we're witnessing at this point. All right, because, you know, Esau has put a covering cast over the world, so the understanding of nationality has been lost. So people look at the Russians and the Americans as if they're two completely different people. However, they are one nation of people. As the scriptures say, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. And this is basically how they've divided the spoils. And now we're going to witness them fight over those spoils. All right. And it begins with the taunting proverb. All right. As a matter of fact, let's go there. All right. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4. Behold, you know what? Let's start up. Habakkuk 2 and 1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. All right, and we're living in those times. Contrary to what Bishop Nate is saying, we are actually living in those times now. All right. Because that breakdown is completely off. And you know that by the Lord is known by the judgment which he executed. You know, they're unable to explain the things that are going on right now through the Spirit concerning the nations. When I say that, I'm talking about Nate. But this all fits when you look at what's going on in the earth right now. Because, again, when we're in the kingdom, Lord willing, we be a part of that number, the nations aren't going to have the ability to mobilize. They're not going to have the ability to form some coalition unaware where we're unaware of it. But what we're witnessing right now is prophecy in motion. All right. This third conflict is approaching speedily, and it begins with these taunting proverbs. You know, the world is waking up to, you know, the so-called white man as a nation of people, with their focus being on the Americans and the West. But really, when you go outside of that and you really just sum it up, you know, the world is beginning to turn against him. And that's the spirit of Yahweh Shah. Now, they're choosing the Russians, which are just another Edomite nation. However, the sentiment is still the same. All right, they're all taking up this taunting proverb, and eventually it's going to be back with action. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. All right, and Lavrov, you know, just mentioned that. You know, the Russian Lavrov mentioned that everywhere they go, chaos follows. You know, the scriptures say he keepeth not at home. And it's spiritual, too, because he said chaos that they think that they can manage. But as we know through the Spirit, this whole thing is going to spiral out of control, even out of the hands of the elites. All right, but that's a lesson for another day. All right, continuing, Habakkuk 2 and 6. Shall not all these take, you know what, let me start at 5 again. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Now, what Lavrov mentioned was that anytime policy doesn't meet the American interests, the rules begin to change. And the world is waking up to this. And now that Russia has been made strong, so to speak, along with China, you know, the world, these smaller countries, these hills, these smaller governments are becoming more and more bold, because now they see Russia and China and Iran and that whole coalition as an alternative to the oppressor. Because at this point, these nations are being oppressed through sanctions. The leader of Eritrea just mentioned that in the last clip. Sanction this, sanction that. And see, when you're in America, there's a different concept of how you're viewed compared to outside of this place. The world doesn't look at America the same way the average American does. The average American is taught that they're the heroes of the movie and that they're doing everybody a favor when they go to these different places. When in reality, you have the understanding outside of this place of what this really is. This is a war machine. And the beast needs to eat. All right. And that's why the world is being pushed further to the brink. All right. And eventually it's going to happen. The World War III on full blown kinetic. It's gonna happen through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. And this is what the Lord prophesied. All right. Matter of fact, let's go here. Let's back that up. This is Joel chapter 3. And it's beautiful too, right? Because we all know what's going on, you know, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. The other nations know what's going on. But to hear them begin to call it out more and more through the spirit, you know, is a beautiful thing to witness, because, again, the world is witnessing the hypocrisy. They're witnessing how the rules change depending on who it is. They're witnessing how the UN is supposed to be set up for judgment and NATO is supposed to be set up for judgment and justice. And really, they're watching the hypocrisy, and the nations are beginning to take up parables against it. And it's not just going to be talk. Thus saith the Lord. All right, it's Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. You know, in that last clip, the leader of Eritrea, that's a small country. They couldn't fight New Zealand by themselves. But they're bold now because they have options and they feel like they're guarded and protected under this coalition. So now they're confident to call a spade because what they're saying it's not a lie, it's the truth. But every nation has been afraid to speak up because of the sanctions and because of the threat of violence. This is why in Isaiah the 14th chapter it says, he who ruled it, let's get it. It's a beautiful time through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, because when you really look at it, you know, the Lord is exposing this guy. All right. Esau's being exposed for who he actually is. Now, the focus is on the Americans, but Esau's being exposed for who he is and how he got to where he is. All right. There's Isaiah 14 and 5. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. Because when you think about the lines that are being drawn, right, you have the Western countries, you have Israel, and then you got everybody else. Think about those odds, right? That means the majority of the people on the earth, even though they don't have the ability to fight, they don't have a military as big as America, the majority of the people on the earth are against this place. Contrary to what you see in the media. And this is that taunting proverb being raised up. All right. Matter of fact, let's go here. This is Jeremiah chapter 49. And I'm going to just jump down to verse 13. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Basra, and that's one of the chief cities in the land of Edom. All right, so it's referring to the Edomites, shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse. And all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste, because this place is not going to be inhabited again after it's destroyed. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her and rise up to the battle. Now, see, battles start with talk first. I would say negotiations, but, ain't no negotiations with a wolf and a lamb. Esau's the hammer of the earth at this point. But the Lord is raising up these kings to side with Russia and to take up these parables. And when you look at prophecy through the Spirit, even the allies of Babylon the Great, which is America, are going to turn against her. And you can already see those lines being crossed, especially with the whole Russia thing that cost the Europeans a lot of resources. When you dig into the situation that they had, I believe it was last winter, maybe the winter before that, where they couldn't get natural gas from Russia anymore. And as a result, they were suffering. And that's a direct result of their allegiance with Babylon the Great. So eventually they're going to turn as well. And all of these things go back to prophecy. See, you never escape. Esau was treacherous. He dealt treacherously. He builded a city with blood, and he thought that he would ride off into the sunset. Not only did he not ride off into the sunset, but he was bold enough, proud enough to sit in the court as if he's the moral one, where he's able to label people as terrorists and these are enemies and these people are wicked, forgetting his own past. And now the world is beginning to not only wake up to it, but to speak up. And ultimately, this is going to lead to the conflict through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, according to the will of the Heavenly Father. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 14. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. See, because Esau's in control of the resources, particularly these Americans, all right, but Esau in general, they're in control of the resources. So people have to deal to survive. Yet, because he's dealt treacherously, he's despised. It's not for no reason. It's for good reason. You talk to the average person in Babylon the Great, and they talk, especially these average Edomites, they talk like they ain't do nothing wrong. Like they just the Superman of the world, and that people are just hating on them. Nah. You've dealt treacherously. And now it's coming back to haunt them. And it starts with these taunting proverbs that we see. All right, real quick. Let's go here. So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 31. I'll start at 30. The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty? And Esau, Edom, is dishonorable in riches. As it says in Isaiah the 14th chapter, he who smote the people with wrath, he smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. And it brings to mind an incident during the whole C-19 situation where Iran was asking for the sanctions to be lifted so that they could get medicine to their people. And they were denied. So now these taunting proverbs are spreading like wildfire. It's becoming extremely difficult to ignore. It can't be ignored at this point. And the Lord has raised up Russia to become a guard unto these nations. And you're going to hear more and more bold statements made by these nations as we get closer and closer to the third world's woe. And it's beautiful. So let's go back to Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. It's beautiful, too, because it's ironic that the world, I wouldn't even say the world, just over here, the average Negro, Latino, or Native American are completely unaware. But then the average Edomite thinks that they're the good guys. They ignore all of the obvious treachery, complete delusion, to say that it's not because they were evil to other people. It's because the world don't want to see them have freedom. This is why they're not going to be pardoned either. as the master, so the servant. And the Lord is bringing this wrath upon the earth, and he's using these nations and moving these nations around to fulfill prophecy. And it starts with this taunting proverb, because when you hear these nations talk like this about America, if you really peel back the layers, it's really about Esau, Edom. When you peel back those layers, because anywhere they've gone, they've dealt treacherously. All right, so let's continue. Habakkuk chapter 2. And left off at verse 6. All right, and it reads, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because Esau has this mindset where he doesn't believe, he believes he's exceptional. You know, the Russians describe the Americans as the American exceptionalists or American exceptionalism, meaning they think that they're more important than everybody else. The Edomites, the so-called white men as a nation of people, view themselves that way. That's why they don't view so-called black and brown bodies the same way in the news. Because they view themselves as exceptional compared to all the rest of the people on the earth. Well, now the scriptures are saying, shall not they rise up against you? You've dealt treacherously with everybody. Why wouldn't they? And now the Lord has raised them up to have this type of spirit. As the scriptures say in Joel, the 3rd chapter, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. The Lord is waking these kings of these nations up to make these decisions, because it's going to move to the third world's woe, man. And it's not like this taunting proverb is a lie. What those 3 clips mentioned was all true. It's all facts. But what you find out about Esau Edom is he doesn't care about justice. He only cares about violence and strength. All right, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 11. Now let's start at 10. And now this is the counsel of the ungodly. Matter of fact, for edification. Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 1. For the ungodly said, reasoning with themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious, and in the death of a man there is no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. So this is the counsel of the ungodly. Now here's the point. Verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. And when you look at what them small hats are doing over there in Gaza, they don't have a care about ancient gray hairs. They don't care about widows. And it's been like that for a long time. You know, they're playing victim right now, but they have a long history of violence as well. And the fact that they look at themselves as completely innocent shows you the hypocrisy. And that's why this proverb is being taken up. All right, continuing, it says this: let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. So they don't care about dealing justly. They only care about strength. Who has the biggest military? Who has the biggest weapon? Who can hurt us? That's the only thing they care about. It's not about equity. It's not about justice. And now these nations have gotten strong enough, or at least they believe they're strong enough to speak up. And it's only going to escalate from here. All right, because the words of Yahweh Shemel Shah will not return unto him void. And as the scriptures say, war is being prepared. All right, matter of fact, let's go here. This is Job chapter 20 and verse 5. I'll start at 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? And his fall begins with him being exposed, with him being brought forth and exposed. That's why the scriptures talk about making Esau bare, meaning you're exposed. Whereas you glorified in certain things, you gloried in certain things in your history, now it's becoming a shame unto you. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 2, Again, and I'll start at verse 8. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. And that's exactly what's happened. And now it's being called out as it should be. It's being exposed. And this is the Lord making Esau bare. All right. Jumping down to verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. And that's exactly what you see happening. Focusing right now on the West. But ultimately, the Lord's going to make Esau as a nation. He's going to make them bare, and he's making them bare. They're already being exposed. First and foremost, beginning with our apostles on down, by the prophets. But even these other nations are beginning to wake up, and not just wake up, but call it out. And this is the beginning, all right, as we move closer and closer to prophecy, moving into the Third World War. This is the buildup, if you will. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah. And a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.